to Today on 2, and today we have with us Miss Michelle Warden, and you're going to be talking about it's a series of disorders, right, called NBIA.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what makes you so passionate about this? This is your son,
yes,
right?
Ma'am.
This is Paul.
This is Paul Burkhardtmeyer, my son.
Okay.
Between 7 and 8 years old, we noticed that he had developed some sort of muscular movement disorders and had some behavioral issues in school, and he went on. They'd done a series of testing for 12 years.
Okay.
And they were put him under an umbrella of MDA and was treating him kind of just symptom-wise, not really knowing what he actually had.
Right, because this is very rare, this type
Very
of condition,
rare.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There's only, so far, there's still less than 1,000 people that's been diagnosed with one of these disorders.
Is that in America, or is that
The world.
Worldwide? Wow.
Worldwide.
Okay.
They do have an international conference every 2 years.
Okay.
While Paul was he had a reaction to one of the medications that he was on because we did not know what he had, and they were just treating symptoms.
Okay.
And it built up to a toxic level in his liver and caused him to have neuroleptic malignant syndrome and a 45-minute seizure. And we nearly lost him that day. He was in the hospital. He had to be stabilized here in Coleman. They transported him to Children's in Birmingham, where he stayed 35 days.
Wow. Okay.
During that stay, we've seen a series of different doctors, and a set of series of doctors from UAB came around with some interns studying dystonia, which his disorder, he has a lot of muscle dystonia and muscle spasms. And she noticed that he had an undetermined diagnosis. And asked me, she said I had been studying research on a geneticist doctor in Oregon, if she could send his DNA, and I had to sign some forms, and we did the legal forms and everything, and it did come back positive for MPAN, which is mitochondrial protein associated neurodegeneration in the brain.
Okay.
It's all of the NBIA disorders are overload of iron in the body and in deposits in the brain.
Oh,
and,
I see.
And each one is determined by what gene is mutated.
Okay.
And they're autosomal recessive. In other words, both parents carry one of the same mutated gene.
Okay.
And the child inherits both.
And that's very rare also.
Yes,
right?
There's only a 25% chance of that happening.
Wow.
Now, Paul's disorder is a neuro disorder that's been put under the category of NBIA, and he is only the 80th person in the world to be positively diagnosed with MPAN.
Wow.
And it is a German-Polish lineage.
And that's what, is it most people of German Polish lineage that have this disorder, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, a German doctor is the one that found the mutated gene that causes MPAN.
Okay.
Now, PCAN2 and 2 or 3 of the other, there's like 7 right now, subtypes, was discovered by Dr. Susan Hayflick and Allison Gregory and Dr. Hogarth's lab in Oregon. And what makes me so passionate about this is I was blessed, and I got to go to the international conference last year. Met the doctors and the geneticists and had one-on-one time with them, and educated myself, because the doctors here, none of them knew anything about it.
Right.
I mean, his team didn't know. The lady that actually, suggested the testing didn't know. She had just been reading some of her research because she has awards for her genetic research.
Okay.
Dr. Hayflick does.
Okay. And was he under her care directly, or was he just part of a program that she worked on?
The lady that came around and seen him, no, she was just a neurologist from UAB that had a group of intern students with her.
Okay.
And they were studying what dystonia looked like. So she came around and introduced herself and her students to my son, who has muscle dystonia very severely.
Right.
And she showed them, what the muscle dystonia looks like and feels like. And that's when she discovered, his charts and stuff.
Okay. So how can people donate to research NBIA disorders?
Okay. For the NBIA disorders, they have a website.
Okay.
And it's www.nbiacapdisorders.org.
Okay.
This website also has a menu at the top. You can scroll through, and it has research, and you can actually read the research that they are working on in her lab. They're working on testing an embryo stage, and they have found a medication called, the generic name of it is Faraprox.
Okay.
Deprivone is the brand name, and it was not approved in the United States by FDA for NBIA yet. It was approved for a disorder called thalamus, which is an iron overload.
Okay.
It's being wrote off label, and there is a trial study going on for pecan.
Okay.
But when I came back from Texas, I was determined to find a doctor to write this off label. 19 doctors, and 10 months later, and he's on it. He started it March the 4th of this year.
Okay. And we have, you brought a video.
Yes,
right?
ma'am. I brought a video of Paul's baptism. He was 17. He was baptized at Daystar Church.
Okay.
He requested this himself.
Okay.
We had been going to church there every once in a while. I was working and a lot, but we did go about once a month.
Okay.
He loved Daystar. He remembered his vacation Bible school, because when he was younger, I used to volunteer every summer to help. We lived in Hanceville. We went to Hopewell, and I was always one of the volunteers. And he remembered his Bible studies about how John the Baptist baptized Jesus, and he immersed him in water.
Right.
And when the pastor suggested just sprinkling, because Paul could not walk, he could only stand up. He said, "No, sir." He says, "I love Jesus, and Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, and he was immersed in water, and that's the way you're supposed to do it." And even though he was scared of water, and it took 3 men to get him in that baptism, his courage, faith, and love for God and Jesus, he did it.
He did. That, wow.
He's a very courageous, brave young man. Kind, always has been. Always, like I was telling you about the testing, he's always been that way. And for his birthday this year, even though he can't speak very much yet, he is getting some verbal back. I know what he's saying to me by we have communication through our eyes and how it blinks and signs. And for his birthday this year, I asked him, what did he want to do? Did he want to have a fundraiser or awareness or a prayer, or did you want to have a party or anything like that? And he indicated to me that he did not want to have a party. He didn't want no presents. That he wanted his prayer, family, friends, and awareness. And I said, what about, would you like for people to donate instead of bringing you presents to NBIA in your name? And he blinked once and grabbed my hand, or tried to. He really, at that time, he could not reach up. His hands were like, but now, since he's been on the Faraprox, he started it March the 4th, 2 weeks ago, he reached up and grabbed my arm out of the bed like this. He could not do that.
That is awesome. And this fundraiser has passed already, right? It was back
Yes,
in April.
ma'am.
But people can still donate by going to this website.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. All right.
They can go to this website. and learn all about the subtypes and the research. And I was not able to bring Paul with me, so I brought a little piece of Paul's life with me to share with y'all. And these pictures right here are of the conference that I went to in San Antonio, Texas. There was people from Australia, California. This is Dr. Hayflick, Dr. Gregory. There was people from Japan, Nevada, Texas, India, many more countries. It was an international conference. When they say international, they mean international.
Yeah.
This is the clinical trial for NBIA, and this month will be the 18th month. Dr. Vazinski and Nancy Sweeter is his RN, and I do not know when the research paper will be out.
Okay.
But I do,
soon, hopefully.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I was hoping. We're hoping really soon, because it will show that this medication does help NBIA patients.
And it's so, it's just inspiring to hear about and to learn about. But we are out of time, so remind us of that website one more time.
It is www.nbiadisorders.org.
Okay.
And if you can go, like, here's 10 months, 2 years, 7 years. This is 19 and 14, 16, 17, 19. These are all before he had the neuroleptic malignant syndrome and the seizure. This is him in the hospital. His first day home from the hospital. And these are since he's been on the Faraprox. This is just in June, and that is my grandson, his nephew, and he thinks the world of his nephew, and he lives in Florida. So when he was up, as you can see here, he's lifting his head up and smiling and holding on to Cameron's hand, which he could not do at Christmas time.
Right.
So the medication is already improving some of his functions.
Okay. Well, that is, such an inspiration to hear. And so thank you so much for coming with us and sharing your story. Everybody go to that website and be sure and donate, because this is definitely something, it's definitely very worthy. So
Yes,
thank you
we
so much
need
for
to
coming.
keep the lab open,
Right.
and it's because it's the only one open in the United States.
Okay. Well, remember that. Go and donate, and we'll be back with more of Today on 2 right after this.
Thank you.